All right. It says we're live. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Flipping Houses for Rookies podcast. Good morning, Peter.
Hello, Bill, and hello, everybody.
I know you can't hear it, but I'm very, very proud of our intro these days. It's very patriotic. Very patriotic, as I chose.
Yeah, but what's with that? You're not the musician, and you make the music. What's the world coming to? Push a button, get some AI. Holy moly, folks!
I didn't do that. I actually hired somebody off of Fiverr to do it for me.
Even worse. Oh boy!
All right, here we are, podcast number 435, 435, and the title of today's podcast is "Architecting a Profitable, Creative Real Estate Machine in Today's Economy." Sounds complicated, right? No. Here's the description. I apologize for my throat. I don't know, for a week I've been kind of hacking. I have no idea why. Because, anyways, here's the description. Before you get into today's information, we have a warning you must heed. This episode contains creative real estate wealth building strategies that any real estate lender doesn't want you to know.
Oh, the lender doesn't want you to know. Mm-hmm. Lender. Okay, I heard that.
In fact, if you are sick and tired of hearing how everyone except you are snatching up property with zero down and living the type of lifestyle you dream about and want, today you will hear some down-to-earth strategies you can start immediately and will get you closer and closer to standing in the line at your bank, depositing that big fat check. This podcast is aimed at the rookie who thinks creative real estate deals are too complicated. But be careful, only because this street level wisdom could seriously damage your excuse making ability that is keeping you on the sidelines watching instead of in the game scoring. Today is when you stop being a spectator in the biggest wealth game on planet Earth. Listen up today, and you will soon feel like starting and not even knowing why. Except it's just the right thing to do.
I like it.
You like it?
I like it.
How did I do?
I like the message. I like the energy. And I like the optimism.
You don't like the optimism?
No, I like the optimism.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I have no idea where that's coming from. Okay. My family, if I do that today, my family will tell me, Dad, you should stop smoking cigars.
Without researching the real cause and doing an analysis and just throwing that out there?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
All right, our housekeeping. So here we are at the part of the show where I have to bore you, but I got to do it to keep everybody behind us happy. So we're getting closer. I'm getting a little bit nervous because we're on podcast number 435, and I keep telling you at podcast number 450, we are going to go over to a private platform. And kind of having second thoughts on that, but we'll see what happens. Bottom line is that if you think there's a lot of content here, when we go to our private platform, which is Hiro, HIRO.FM, you should download the app if you're going to continue to want to get some juicy information. Realize once I go onto a private platform where I can speak my piece and be Bill, like I'm in my office talking to my staff that I used to have, which I don't have anymore. Now it's all online. You're going to get all that information. So make sure you go download Hiro.fm. And I will soon, hopefully over the Christmas vacation or over the Christmas time, the end of 2024, I will start putting together some podcasts and start giving them to you. I also have launched a newsletter business on creative real estate. And that newsletter will also be in Hyro. It's called my audio letter, which is about creative real estate. So if you don't have time to listen to don't have time to watch a newsletter or read a newsletter in your email, I'm going to put it on the platform, and you're going to be able to get it there. Okay? So please make sure you subscribe to us. Make sure you like us. Make sure you leave us a review. Which, by the way, Peter, I have a couple of surprises today.
Really?
I'm going to start doing something different. If you start leaving us a review and you take a picture of it and you email it to me, which I will tell you about shortly in the show, we're going to start giving you gifts like worth hundreds of dollars. Free softwares, free scripts, that kind of stuff. Okay?
Sounds good.
So make sure you do that. So make sure you like us, make sure you leave a review, and then take a picture of it. And I'll tell you a little bit later how you can get free calculators, free scripts, free software that I've never done before. And I'm going to give it to you privately. Okay? So that's all we're going to do for now. Let's move on. I had enough of that. Legal beagle crap, huh?
Yep.
All right, Pete. I want to paint a picture for everyone listening today. Okay, let's start off with that. Imagine standing in front of a mammoth or a huge puzzle with a few thousand pieces scattered across the table. Right? I only use this analogy because my wife loves puzzles. Oh my God.
Hey, kids, Bill, is that why she married you? Boom, boom.
Oh yeah, I'm a puzzle. So,
so
my kids will ask me, like for a birthday or for Christmas or something like that, what should we get Pam? And I'm like, a puzzle. And she just goes, oh my God. And she sits with a big tray on her lap, and puts her blanket on, turns on 14,000 heaters. So it's about tropical weather. And she sits there for hours sometimes doing these puzzles. She loves puzzles. So this is where the idea came from, right? But I thought it would be a great analogy because, like I said, I've watched my wife, and she spreads these pieces all over the table, and they just look completely dispersed or unorganized.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At first, the puzzle seems like it's an impossible goal, right? All the edges, colors, all dispersed around, not in any order, just there waiting to be organized, just planted, right? Sometimes they're not even turned up on the right direction. Like the back of the puzzle is flipped upside down. It's flipped up on the piece, right?
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Now, here is the puzzle magic and the stable piece of information we're going to talk about today. One piece at a time. Right? Then the next piece. After that, another piece. And then pretty soon what happens? It starts to form, right?
Yeah. You start seeing parts, at least. It's not just one big chaos. It's parts. Then maybe you have a chance of getting those in some kind of order.
Right. So this is how I run my creative real estate business, and how I have made millions across my 3 decades. Right? Now, I always feel bad saying that I've made millions because, yeah, I've got assets, but I definitely don't feel like a multimillionaire. Even though if you add it all up, I could be that, but I don't feel that way. You know what I mean? Because when you think millions, when you say I've done millions over 3 decades, you would think I had millions in my bank account, right?
Right.
But that's not necessarily the case. I'll tell you the best part of being a real estate investor.
Yeah.
Is you can make a lot of money.
Sure.
And I'll tell you the worst part of being a real estate investor.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
You could spend a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, any game you play, if you make $100 a week, you probably spend 99 or 101. You make 10,000 a week, you probably spend 9,999 or 12,000 a week. Right. Like the game is commensurate in a way, so you got to be careful how you play.
Yeah, I have 2 problems that I run into.
Yeah.
Well, actually, three problems, but the third one is controllable.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I throw money at unproven ideas.
Mm.
And I've learned just recently now, soon clicking the clock at 61 years old in a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
I've learned that I'm really good at failing at 9 out of 10 things. The thing that has to happen is the one thing that does work has to pay for the other 9.
Right.
So, like you've talked about in the past with real estate, you say it's not like a job where you go to work Monday through Friday, you get a paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not even like you get a paycheck once a month. It's not even like you get a paycheck once a quarter. Sometimes it's a year, 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to be patient. Well, that's the problem with my lifestyle is that I could go a year without hitting the jackpot.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is I get long stints of using my savings and using my reserves or what I've made in the past, waiting for the next thing to happen.
Yeah, but even while you're doing that, you do have cash flow and there's properties, there's money coming in. It's not like there's no money coming in. You said jackpot, that's one thing, but money's flowing because I know you. It's not like I don't want people to think you got nothing happening. You got plenty of cash flow, and yeah, you can spend it too because bills come with it. But there's cash flow.
Yeah, I tend to keep 3 sources of income. I try to, and they ebb and flow. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know why I'm talking about that, except that the golden rule is I'm always doing my next step.
Mm-hmm.
I always have an idea where I want to go, and I always have my next step. I'll tell you, Peter, I'm being a little profound this morning, but something that you may or may not know about me is there's certain books that I go back and I read. Like recently I've decided to stop buying books because I have a bunch of books. I have thousands of books, right? Maybe not thousands, maybe close to 1,000. I have hundreds of books. I got them all over the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I read them, and sometimes I read the first few paragraphs and I'm like, nah, this is not what I want. And then I won't read the rest of it. But then a year later, it's like, oh, that's exactly what I want. Like, for example, on my desk, right? I was looking for something the other day, and I come across this, right? I don't know why I'm talking about this, but
It says 57 masterpiece sales letters.
from Gary Halbert. Gary Halbert.
Gary.
Right? Oh, yeah. Same thing. Gary. Eugene, right?
Yeah.
This is all copywriting stuff, right? 13 Secrets of Cash, right? And these are all things that were on my counter, right? That I haven't looked at in a while. And I go back and I'm like, Jesus, I forgot I even had this, right? Anyways, I'm telling you this because what I'm involved in right now is, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, psycho-cybernetics
with
Maxwell Maltz. And it's all about using pictures to architect your life, which is where the word architect in today's podcast came from. Now, I'm not going to talk about that, and I'm completely off subject, right? But my point is that what you think is what you get. And I'm not happy with what I'm getting right now. So I've decided to kind of take a look at and do an analysis of what do I think of myself? What are those core pictures down deep, right? That I consider myself to be or I'm striving for. And believe me, those pictures could be below your awareness level. Those ideas or those things that you're telling yourself every day are there and you don't even know it. Right? So, anyways, that's how I run my business. But the reason why I'm telling you all of this is because I always have that picture. Where am I going? And the way I manage that idea or that concept or that goal or that future or that what is the word I want? Affirmation, however you want to say it, right? Which, by the way, if you do all that stuff, if you've got goals and affirmations and all that kind of stuff, and you're bending yourself around it, like it's like it's a chore for you to exercise, or it's a chore for you to eat certain kinds of food so you can stay healthy. You're rubbing up against a picture of yourself that's below your conscious level.
Mm.
Instead of trying to figure out what you think of yourself and aligning all your new habits to that, you're aligning the idea of I shouldn't eat sugar, where you have a picture that says some idea that says I love sugar.
Internal conflict.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. So the reason why I bring all this up, and not to be profound, but because the way I deal with everything in my life is what's the next step. Right. So that's important because that's how I do my deals. That's how I run my house. That's how I run the relationship with my wife and my kids. That's how I run my relationship with you. That's how I run my relationship with everything.
Mm.
Right. So with that said, what's my next step? I decided to say step. What is it? What is a step?
Mm.
Right. As in do our next step or one step at a time.
Yeah. Like, what is it?
Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting question.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to give you I'm kind of sidetracked again because this is one of those things like my buddy asked me the other day, well, about a month ago, to define the word left.
Left?
Yeah, what does the word left mean? Yeah, exactly. Right.
Well, there's more than one definition. I'm trying to think which one you're headed at.
Yeah.
Well,
it was just one of those words like, well, left is over there. It's a direction, or it's the opposite of right, or it's like it's kind of a hard word to define.
Well, it could also be something that is remains behind. You left something. It's
Right.
behind you. It's
Right.
gone.
Well, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the direction. But yeah,
Direction.
I get it. So I feel like step is one of those definitions. Like you have a step in your house,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we're talking about what is our next step, right? Now, most believe a step is an advancement or movement by raising a foot and bringing it down and going forward or in a direction.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a step, right? So you're
Sure.
taking a step moving forward or going backwards. You're stepping backwards.
Yeah.
Right. But today we're going to be a little bit more specific than that. And I'm going to get out of the profound pool here in a minute because I actually have examples of all this stuff, right?
Sure.
Why are we actually talking about I got to figure out my notes here. Hang on one second. Oh, we're actually talking about a synonym here. Like to go through the steps, or another word would be to perform.
Mm-hmm.
So the synonym of this step, like do your next step, is to perform your next step or perform the next action.
Right. That word do is one of my least favorite words in the language. Do. Like, what do you mean do? What do you mean? It's just so vague, do. So perform is more specific.
Right.
It's an activity.
Right.
Okay.
See how this clears things up a little bit. So you're going to perform your next activity.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Anything of value in our life is made up of progress, systematic progress. You go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, you get up at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You eat lunch at 2 o'clock. You go to the bathroom at 8 o'clock. You go to work at 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Right? These are all systematic processes. So anything that's worth having in this world is a systematic progress. Now, I would like to, because this is a whole nother podcast, like entirely whole nother podcast. The word automation.
Ooh.
So systematic progress is not automation. Like I have a person, I'm not going to tell you who they are. I have a person in my life that just believes that you should buy real estate, you should set it on automatic and just collect money.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It works for a few months, but automaticities break.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because life's involved, right? So, anyways. So this is the magic. Instead of facing a massive disorder like the puzzle, right? Or a lot of what looks like random motion, here's what you do. Because you're standing, like, suppose you were standing at this vast jungle, the edge of a vast jungle, and you had to get to some place without a map.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't see, right? You can't see the forest through the trees, they say.
Sure.
So you need to figure out where you are first, right? So we talked about this in podcast number 434, which was the last podcast. What is your baseline or what's your starting line? And this is the reason why we talked about it, because now you can actually do this, because it's like I'm starting from here. So like in creative real estate, let me give you an example. I'm starting from, I owe $24,000 in taxes. I'm short about $1,000 a month on my financial plan. I am working 70 hours a week. I volunteer at the church. I help others when they need it. And my schedule is pretty full with what I think are good things that I should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Have a nice family, have grandkids, have whatever, right? So there's a starting point, right?
Yep.
So how am I going to do real estate?
Mm-hmm.
More importantly, what's my first step? And then what's my next step? And then most importantly is the predict that you need to have, the comparable magnitude of prediction, right? Like how much effort is this going to take me?
Sure.
And how long is it going to take me? How long do I have to do this? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know this sounds all profound, and I know all this sounds like, and nobody talks about it because it's boring as crap. But I'm telling you, this is how you architect a creative real estate business, right? If you
don't figure that out, how are you going to do it?
Well, no. You can do it.
If you don't figure it out?
Yeah, you can do it. People do it.
Yeah.
But what happens is they don't get the results they want. They don't replace income. It takes them too long. They spend way too much on resources. They bounce from one shiny object to the next, looking for the easy ways to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't work out too well. You can do it. But that's what we hear. There's a lot of complaints like, hey, it's not working good enough. I expect it to be more successful by now. So you have to work those things out.
You want to know something that I've just realized recently that is pretty kind of strange?
Yeah.
So in our software, Creative REI Reply, that does 90% of the work for you,
mm-hmm.
I've realized that the guys that are crushing it, because we got guys that come in that pay thousands of dollars per month for leads, and they have 3-4 people on their team or more, mm-hmm. and they're doing 2, 3, 4 deals, 5 deals, 7 deals a month. We never hear from them.
In what way? What do you mean you don't hear from them?
They come into the system, they get set up. They're not on the support calls. They don't send support tickets. They've learned how to figure things out themselves.
Yeah.
That's why they're doing what they're doing. That's why they're doing the deals they're doing, is because they don't rely on a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
They figure things out themselves. And it's important because we've been doing for a couple months now, the only way to get signed up for Creative REI Reply is you have to do a demo with either myself or Sean. So we sign these people up and we get their backstories. We spend an hour with these people before they sign up, 45 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
So I have a notebook full of stories of where people come from and what they do. I spoke to a guy yesterday that's a short sale specialist. This guy was amazing. He's done it since 2001. He's done 400 and change deals, and most of them are short sales. 285 short sales.
He buys short sales.
No, he does short sales.
Oh,
He told me yesterday that in the last couple of years he's gotten 8 houses from banks for free
whoa.
because they don't know what to do with them.
Huh.
And they want them off his books, off their
Huh.
books. So it's incredible the amount of people. Anyways,
Yeah.
so now exactly how do we do this that I'm talking about? Let's get out of the profound pool. I set the pace here. So let's start with a fundamental concept of goal, not gold, GOAL, goal deconstruction. This is where we begin to break down the intimidating puzzle into more manageable pieces or buckets. Okay, now, again, after monitoring my wife and watching her with her puzzles, she starts with all the straight edges.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets the frame first.
Yep.
Right? She gets the square or rectangular or whatever it is, right?
Makes sense.
So this is where she begins to break down. It's like this is her stable datum. She starts with she's at the edge of the confusing jungle, and she's got to walk into the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
So her stable datum or her stable idea is, okay, I'm going to start with all the pieces that have a straight edge. 1 out of the 4 edges is straight. The others are the puzzle. And she starts laying out the straight edges. And then next thing you know, they start going together. Next thing you know, there's a corner. And there's 2 corners. And then there's 3 corners. And then there's 4 corners. See what I'm talking about? See, this is how creative real estate works. You start with a stable piece of information that you know you can work with, and then you move to your next step, right? Does this make sense?
Sure. Well, it's like she's outlining the perimeter of the jungle.
Right.
At least you know where it is. This is the jungle, all this.
Right. So the first step of any piece of information is knowing how to identify it, or its identification. Where do you put that piece of information? Mm-hmm. Because most people think that all information is important. And as I have brought out recently, we have way too much information in our society. We're an information overload, yet we're wisdom starved. Right? Wisdom, as we defined a couple podcasts ago, is the knowledge with experience. That's wisdom, right?
Right.
So, with that said, when you're getting data from sellers or you're getting data from wherever you're getting data, people like myself, right? You need to put them in buckets. So today, I'm going to give you 4 buckets that you could put these pieces of information in. Which, by the way, what I'm about to teach you, absolutely, positively, I don't even know how to put words to it, is the way to start a creative real estate business. Matter of fact, it is the way to do every single deal. Every single deal has these 4 components in it. Absolutely, positively, bar none. Has these 4 components. So here we go. First component.
Yep.
Find a way to communicate to a potential motivated real estate seller. Now, you would think that that's easy, right?
Not really. For somebody just starting, because I want to buy a house, what's he going to do? Call a realtor? Go online?
They do.
See what everybody else sees?
People do.
Yeah. How's that supposed to work? Everybody else sees it. You're seeing it. You're lost in the shuffle.
So I'm glad you said that, because I want to break this down a little bit. I want to spend a couple minutes on each one of these because it's important.
Yeah, sounds it.
I said find a way find a way to communicate to a potential motivated real estate seller.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, did I say go find a house for sale?
No.
Okay,
And you
good.
usually say, find a motivated seller. This is different what you just said. Find a way to locate them, a method of locating them. That's
A
different.
potential. So let me just make this short and sweet. So let's say we don't do this, but just for the purpose of analogy, a motivated seller would be a pre-foreclosure person. They're getting ready to lose the house,
Yeah, you would think.
right? Those are obvious, right?
Yeah.
People also think another motivated seller is someone with a vacant piece of property, right?
Could be.
An abandoned piece of property. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Another way that somebody might think they're motivated is a probate deal, which are hard to find.
Yeah.
Right? This is true, but I will tell you with all of my heart, and all of my wallet and everything that I know, this basic law is absolutely, positively, completely unbreakable. Right? The harder it is to find a deal, the more money you make.
Mm.
So we have a question. What is a probate deal? A probate deal is when someone passes away and their house has to be sold. Probate is the court proceeding that you go through to make sure that the deceased person's wishes are being executed. Right? Does that make sense?
Not sure because I froze. I missed it.
Anyways.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Yeah. So I didn't realize how significant this was until I did a study for Creative REA Replay, because we used to sell the software. We no longer sell the software. We now sell the leads because too many people don't know where to find potential motivated leads.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we sell as low as 16 cents a lead. We sell potential motivated leads, and then let's use our software for free, right? Which is over at creativeareareplay.com. So when you first start, though, you're like, who do I call?
Mm-hmm.
Where do I find a potential motivated seller? Because here's the funny thing about motivation, Peter.
Yeah.
Every single seller that has a house for sale is motivated.
Right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't put the house up for sale.
Right. But what are they motivated for?
Right. So are they motivated for an all cash 10% over market value price? They're motivated for what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And they never think about what the buyer has to go through to give it to them.
Mm.
So, like, for example, like I said, they're motivated to get an all cash 10% over market value price. So, not thinking that the buyer has to go get a mortgage and it has to get an appraisal, and the appraisal is not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think of that, right? So, what you're looking for in creative real estate is you're looking for certain things. Motivation means they're flexible. They're possibly willing to take monthly payments or some sort of a discount. And when I say discount, it could be anywhere from 5% to 40%. But they're flexible. Okay, so to us, a motivated seller is someone that's willing to talk about that and see how it benefits them. Okay.
Yep.
So number one out of the 4 ways is find a way to communicate to a potential motivated real estate seller. And I'm going to get into this a little bit more further down on the list. So that's why I'm not telling you where to go, because I'm going to tell you that before we get done here. Number 2, you have to let them know what you do. Right? Now, it could be I buy houses. A guy like me can say that. Why? Because it doesn't matter what you shovel my way, I'll make a deal.
Yeah.
I have found, unfortunately, or not in a good way, that guys like me don't exist a lot. I don't know why. I'm a freak. I'm a weirdo. I get that because I could take any deal and throw it my way. I realized just recently, like probably 6 months ago, the reason why is because I used to own a gas station for 27 years. I sold cars for 20 years. And it didn't matter who walked in my front door, I would find a way to get them the car. I was a finance guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was prepped for this business.
Oh.
Because I was always dealing with banks and I was always dealing with financing and was always dealing with negotiating and didn't realize how much I was prepped. Now, realize that everything in life you do is conditioned. You can condition yourself to be anything you want. Right?
Sure.
Like, for example, I'm going to be sarcastic, right?
Go ahead.
You say he was born a salesman. Yeah. Well, I dare you to go in every single newspaper in every single country and look for that. John Doe was born today as a salesman. I want you to find that announcement somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? No, John Doe conditioned himself to be a salesman. There is no such thing as inherent skills. Now, there is initiatives like skills that you might initiate, but you have to work on them.
Mm-hmm.
The only way that you're going to do anything in life is practice, practice, practice. Like I was talking about before with processes, right?
Yep.
Knowing processes. Right. So number 2, you need to let them know what you're doing. So someone like me, they can say I buy houses, and no matter what you say, I can make you an offer.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not common. There are a lot of people. I'm not the only one. There are people like me, but it's lesser of us than the people that can't make any offer.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing to have one way to buy a house, like a realtor has one way,
right?
And there's people who know a few ways.
Yeah. A wholesaler has one way.
Yeah, but they have one-trick ponies, right?
Right.
So when you study enough as you have, and people like me are trying to learn and getting somewhere, I guess, we have more ways if you listen to the person, see what they need, and find a way to help them do it.
The only difference between me and you and me and anyone listening to me right now is I was dumb enough, and I mean that. I was just naive enough to just sit in 4,000 houses until I got good at it. And I'm not saying you need to do that. You don't need to do that at all, but I needed to. And I was buying 5, 6, 7 houses a month doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's because at the time that's what we were doing. Anyways, so you could say you need to let them know what to do. So first thing is you're going to find a way to communicate to a potential motivated seller, and then you're going to tell them, okay, I buy houses. Or you can say, well, I help buyers look for a rent to own.
Mm-hmm.
Or I take over your debt so you can walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Or 80% of the population that's looking for a house doesn't qualify for a mortgage. So I help those people.
Mm.
See, you want to be specific, whatever you're doing. Right? The more specific, the more you are going to flourish. Now I'm going to back up. I know I've been too profound because I could probably have done this whole podcast in 15 minutes. So I kind of want to make sure we're diving deep here, right?
Yeah.
So let's back up. If you know where you're starting from, you know what your basis is.
Mm-hmm.
Like I told you, I owe $24,000, all that kind of stuff. In other words, I have no money.
Yeah.
Right? So where would I start? Right? So I might say I'm going to start with a slot deal, or at least I'm going to start with options, because options I can get and I can buy and sell and never own the property. No risk. I don't take on any debt because I'm already $1,000 less. I was $1,000. What did I say? $1,000 short of
a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't take on debt, right?
Yeah.
I can't spend any money. So I need to figure out how can I go find houses that people were willing to do a rent to own with me.
Yep.
And then sub-rent them or sublease them or sell those rent to own deals to people that want them and can pay for them.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I can't pay for them doesn't mean I should go try to not find them. No, what I need to do is I need to get the deal and then sell the deal as a package to someone else that can pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Sure.
that's a big thing with people. So this is where your baseline starts. So whatever your baseline tells you is what you tell people. Well, I actually lease option houses and then I sublease them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do. So when you're on the phone with somebody, you're very specific. You don't have to go through all the other things. Like you're talking to somebody about a lease option deal, and next thing you know, they're telling you, well, I'll just give you the house and you got a subject to deal. And you're like, oh, what do I do with that? I don't want to take on debt.
Yeah.
Right? Which, by the way, you would do that deal and you would just wholesale it. So that brings me to number 3. So am I being clear? Am I being too long-winded here?
No, makes sense.
Right. So number 1, find out a way to communicate to potential motivated sellers, and then tell them what you do.
Right. I'll give you an example of what not to do. How many people have we seen that come to us, whether it's a workshop, we had people, we had a couple ghost us on a house visit that we did, and they want to do renovations.
Yeah.
They had no contractors. They had no private lenders. They had no money. I mean, they were not set up to do that.
Right.
So why would you start there with something you cannot do? You have to find your baseline and find out what you can do, move from there. And that's a very good point.
All right, step number 3. Now you need to discover what your buyer needs and wants, or their situation, and how you can help them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I'm going to get into that in a few minutes, so I'm going to just leave it at that, because I'm going to tell you the trick that not even you know. You taught this to me this past month, Peter.
Did I?
You have taught to me, because you keep telling me I get to a certain spot and I get stuck.
Yeah.
And I figured it out.
Good.
So number 3, now you need to discover what your buyer needs and wants, or their situation, and how you can help them.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, now the easy part. Produce or present what the seller wants. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So now let's make this more practical, so it's not just all theory.
Sure.
Okay? First, know each of these 4 steps, right? Cold.
Mm.
You don't have to think about that. Then realize every single deal goes through this process.
Mm.
And if steps are skipped or ignored, there's absolutely no deal that happens.
Mm.
Right? In other words, each step, as I have laid it out today, is like a milestone in your deal. Or act like it's checkpoints going through your deal.
Mm.
Because if you don't have these 4 steps, you don't have a deal. So let's do a mock or a pretend deal using these 4 steps.
Okay. Yep.
So 1, we go to Facebook or Zillow, and under the for rent section, we want to go fishing. Not for a house yet. There's the first mistake every investor makes. They're looking for a house. The house is the symptom of the disease. Okay? Instead, you're looking for a motivated seller. So when you go on to Facebook Marketplace, you go under the rent section. Nobody there is selling a house.
True.
They're renting a house.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we send a message to them that says, hey, would you be willing to rent to me for a year or 2 and then sell it? Or would you be willing to rent for a year or two and then sell it to me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't even look at the house. You don't care what the house looks like. The house has nothing to do with this.
Well, we're not moving in. Somebody's living there. What do we care? Somebody will live. Somebody has
not
lived.
even that, Peter. Not even that.
Not even that.
Not even that. I could be the most beautifulest house on the planet, and it could be worth $10 million, and they're selling it for $3.
Mm-hmm.
The point that I'm trying to make is that the first step of the formula is what?
To find a way to locate this motivated seller.
Potential motivated seller. Step
He's not
one is
motivated.
find a way to communicate to a potential motivated seller. It doesn't say find a pretty house.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't say location, location, location. It doesn't say find a house that you like that you would move into. It doesn't say find an ugly house that you could buy cheap. No, the formula says find a way to communicate to a potential motivated seller.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to send out, I talk about one of my coaching clients that is no longer with me. God bless her. In fact, I should call her because Fatima, I wonder what, I'm kind of curious what happened to her. She had 4 kids. And she would literally lock herself in the bathroom, which is how I got this thing. Like, everybody goes to the bathroom every day, so take the phone in the bathroom and just do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
She would lock herself in the bathroom, right? And she would go on to Facebook for rent, and she would type a message, would you be willing to rent to me for a year or two and then sell to me? Copy it, select all, copy it, and then just go down the list and send 25 messages a day.
Yep.
And sure as shit, within a week, 2 at the most, she was in conversations talking to people about how she could do that. Okay? See, you're fishing for a return communication from a motivated seller who's got a little bit of spark of interest. They're a little bit curious.
Mm-hmm.
So something's going on there. You hit the tip of the iceberg that crashed the Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you want to investigate that. Okay? That's where you want to go. That's where you need to put your effort. You don't need to analyze this house for 4 days before you make an offer.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know that your seller has a spark of motivation and is a little, might be, there's a potential they could be flexible. That's where you want to put your energy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So number 2 on this mock deal, you tell them what you do. For example, I have buyers who can pay up to 70% more than market value legally and ethically. Would you be interested in me showing you how to do that? Right? These buyers are not able to buy a bank loan yet or buy a house because they can't get a bank loan yet, which, by the way, is about 80% of all buyers looking for a house. So there's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have found and communicated to the potential seller and told them that we can locate a motivated buyer that would be willing to pay up to 70% over market value for asking a seller to wait a few years to get paid off. See how this is going?
Mm-hmm.
Nice and casual, no high-tech deal structuring, real simple. You're doing your next step. You do step 1, then you do step 2.
Mm-hmm.
We're on step 2. By the way, are we talking about doing we're talking about doing a slot deal, right?
That would be.
Given a Grand Slam offer, right? A Grand Slam offer, a slot deal is a sandwich lease option transaction that you would get a lease with an option from your seller and then sell it to your buyer that wants to live in it. You buy it from your seller for $1 to $100, some paper consideration, and you sell it to your buyer for 5%, a minimum of 5% of what the house is worth.
Mm-hmm.
Over. right? So if the house is worth $300,000, you're going to advertise it for $315,000, and you're going to make $15,000.
Yep.
Right. Which is what I was talking about earlier. So, because I don't have time to go over this today, if you want my actual script and calculator on how to sell a house for up to 70% over market value for free, because we sell this in other places, leave a 5-star review on the podcast, on this podcast, leave a 5-star review, take a picture of it, and email it to flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com. Right? And I will send you the calculator and the script for free, no strings attached. Just make sure you put in the email that you want the slot deal and the script because you took a picture and sent me of your review. So just give us a 5-star review wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Take a picture of it. Go to flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com. Send it there. Tell me you're looking for the calculator and the script, and I will send it to you for free. Now watch this, Peter. You're at step 3 by accident.
Why do you say by accident?
Because all we did was just text somebody. All we did was go to Facebook, Marketplace. We text them, are you willing to rent for a year or two and then sell to me? And then when they answered and they say, what do you mean? You say, well, this is what I do. And now all of a sudden you're at step 3.
Yep.
Right? You feed into their greed glands with the 70% above market value. That's why they're going to contact you because they want to know how. And the calculator that if you take a screenshot of a 5-star review, if you take a screenshot of a 5-star review that you're going to leave for us, I will send you the calculator and I will send you the script that show you how you can get 70% over market value. All right. But we're on the step of what they need and want. So maybe they don't want to wait for months and months for a payoff. In other words, they want all cash. Right? Which means now we know that we need to slide into number 4. So we just by accident found out. We found a motivated seller, a potential motivated seller. We told them what we do, and they say, oh, no, I don't want monthly payments. In this casual 3-minute conversation, we found out they want all cash, which is 97% of all customers. So what do? You present them with an all-cash offer by doing a 90-day option agreement with a minimum of a 5% discount, just like a realtor would do. You get it?
Sure. Well, if that's what they want.
Right.
That's what you do.
Well, we found that out by accident. We didn't have to do a whole script.
Yeah.
And quizzing them and wondering what their pain points were and all the high-tech stuff.
Yeah, you say monthly payments. Goes, oh, I don't want to do that. All right, you want to sell cash? Okay, done.
And the script is pretty much, well, you would give a realtor 5%. Give me a 5% discount, and I have buyers that I can go sell the house to. And where are your buyers? Oh, they're on Zillow and they're on Facebook. And they're on avail.co, because all you got to do is put this puppy on one of those, usually Zillow. If you got a $400,000 house and you get a 5% discount, that means you got the house for $380,000. You put it on the market for $385,000 and make $5,000, you're $15,000 below market value. Believe me, people will find you. Okay? Now, remember, if you leave a 5-star review of this podcast and send me a picture of it to flippinghousesforrookies.com, I will send you these calculators and these scripts so you don't have to wonder. So there's no secret. Okay? that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Also, you should know that I do not ever worry about giving a seller what they want, because a lot of people will be like, yeah, Bill, what if they want $1 million for a $100,000 house? Well, fortunately, this happened to me a bunch of years ago because I was a one-trick pony because all I did was subject to. So I went about 5 years of my career just doing subject to, like presenting, well, if you give me your deed, leave the mortgage in your name, I'll take over the mortgage. And I was losing deals, right? So eventually I came up with my 7-deal strategy that always allows me to fit the right deal structure into what the seller needs and wants, and I still have a killer deal. And I never worry about making money because any one of the 7 core deal strategies based on equity, right, happens to work, right? In fact, if you do the whole thing about asking, about taking the picture and sending me an email, I will also send you a course that I have on how to make your first $5,000. It's worth $500. In the email, I will send you a link to that course, and it will walk you through all the steps. I think it's a 14-day process. It will walk you through all the steps to make you your first $5,000. So all you got to do is leave a 5-star review, take a picture of it, and then put in the email that you want the script, the calculator, and if you want the $5,000 course, tell me you want that too, and I will send it to you. Okay. By now, you should understand this little mini blueprint or the steps of a sequence that happen in every deal. And you can now evaluate or consider the effort to impact or the deal result needed on your part. Okay? Is this making sense? Or am I boring everyone?
No, I think you're making the point.
Okay. So what happens is by noticing which step or which stage of the process you're in with that seller and completing it so you move on to the next step, you always know what to do. Right?
Yeah, no, actually that's really helpful because if you don't have a plan or an outline, a blueprint, you get on the phone like, what should I say? Well, at least you have it broken down to 4 segments so you can focus on one thing at a time. It's hard enough to talk to people, but I mean, I use the scripts and I got used to the sequence. So it's not as complicated as you think. But with nothing, what are you going to do? Sit there and like talk to a girl, see if she wants to go on a date with you and have no idea what to say, what to do, and never tried it before? That doesn't work so hot.
Yeah, because if you start doing this, you'll start to notice the pieces of the puzzle coming together, and plus your anxiety will slip away.
You know, it's funny. You say, like, tell people what you do. A lot of times when we have our software working, we send a message to people. Often they say, like, who are you? What do you do? What's going on? They want to know who you are and what you do.
Exactly.
So if they don't ask, maybe you should tell them anyway so they know you're not just some random voice on the phone. This is who I am. Blah, blah, is what I do. At least I have an idea what's going on. And they can feel like, oh, I can fit into that or not. They tell you, you shift, you adjust to what they need. At least you find out what's happening.
Well, you're building on whether or not they're motivated or not.
Yeah. Am I in left field with this guy? He doesn't want to do that. How about this? Okay, never mind. Forget it.
Not to mention your time and energy will balance out by aligning to each step when you get there because it'll move forward. Right?
Yeah. Well, we will know that we're making progress. We're not just talking in circles. We're getting from step 1 to 2 to 3. That's helpful right there.
All right, cool. So technically the podcast is over.
Okay.
If you want to stick around, I'm going to talk to Peter about what Peter's going through because this is how I figured this out. It's because of you, Peter.
Okay.
And it's going to be really cool.
All right.
Okay. So if you want to go, I understand. We're at an hour. I understand. I'm going to spend the next 5 or 10 minutes working with Peter as if we're doing a private consult right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we understand the 4 steps, right?
Yeah.
So now here's the little trick.
Mm-hmm.
If you move to the next step and it gets rough,
Oh.
go back a step.
Well, as soon as you said that, I realized go back a step. Interesting. Hmm.
So you drop back to the previous step and verify that you haven't completed it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do this, you skip a gradient. Like you said, they text you, who are you? If you don't answer that correctly, you're not going to find out what they need and want. And text, they'll just cut the communication with you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for example, you did step 1, so you thought you did step 1.
Mm-hmm.
But now you move on to realize who you are talking to is not on the deed.
Oh. Yeah.
Right? And
yeah.
It's not their house. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the point that I want to drive home. This is the home run for you, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
This is the absolute home run. And I'm telling you, folks, what I'm going to tell you right now sounds simple, but it took me 30 years to figure this out. And I just recently figured it out because Peter keeps saying to me over and over again, Bill, I get to this exact point of where I got to fill out the option, or I got to do this, and I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's not that Peter's stupid. He's not. It's not that he doesn't know how. He does. He just is getting lost. So,
well, it's not working.
right.
So what do I need to do better or change? How do I say this? It's an area I hadn't been in before. I've worked up to this point where you used to take over. So I'm in a kind of new area. So the weaknesses show up and whatever I need to do better shows up. So you kind of work it through.
Right.
You know?
So you went from step 3 to step 4. Step 3 is you thought you knew what was needed and wanted, and moved into step 4, which is you thought you knew what was needed and wanted, so you were presenting that offer to that seller.
Right.
But then they ghost you.
Yep.
Which, by the way, is done about 95% of the time in real estate entrepreneurs every single day.
Mm.
They do not go back to step 3 and find out what's needed and wanted.
Mm.
Right? For example, when presenting offers, where you're supplying what's needed and wanted, you keep getting rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the fastest and smoothest way to back up to number 3 and find out what's needed and wanted is by using this one sentence.
Mm.
And you know it, but you don't use it. So, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, what would have to happen for us to do a deal today? See, every single deal is a juggernaut between 3 and 4. What's needed and wanted and what you're offering. You're going back and forth until you figure it out. So, okay, Peter, here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the deed in my name and I'm going to give you, and the mortgage is going to stay in your name. Oh, no. So I'm at 4. They say, oh, no, you got to go back to 3.
Mm.
Okay, what if I give you an agreement for deed or a land contract and the deed stays in your name? Would you be willing to do that? Huh. I might be willing to do that. How much down are you going to put? See, you're going between 3 and 4.
Sure.
Until you find out what's needed and wanted. And when you get it, bang, the deal falls together.
Yeah, that's obviously, once you put it that way, it's obvious. I actually tried the other day, I was talking to somebody that ghosted me. I said, look, I actually texted them. I couldn't get them on the phone. So I sent the text like, sorry, I must have missed something. Let's go over this again because I must have done something wrong. Let me help you. So I was trying to back my way into that. So somehow I was trying to look at that. But that
so
what
you need to do is if you're doing that and you're instead of if you don't have the opportunity to go between 3 and 4 multiple times, like as if you were on a conversation on the phone and you had to shortcut it, you say, what would have to happen for me to buy your house today?
Yeah.
That puts them right back into number 3.
But it also lets them make the offer instead of us pitching stuff at them. Because the oldest trick I know in real estate is find out what they want to do and just do that. Have them make the offer. So that question is perfect for that. Then you work your way from there.
Okay. Now the last thing I want to say to you.
Yeah.
And we've talked about these in the last 3 or 4 podcasts, and I'm kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle now.
Yeah.
No pun intended with the podcast analogy here.
Oops.
So we're going between 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you right up front, I could do a whole podcast on this. What you're running up against is what the person's reality is or isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I rent, I'm going to have to be a landlord.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they say that.
So I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of the podcast, and I'm going to talk about the pictures again. Right? What are their pictures they're looking at? What are they looking at? Oh, if I rent, I'm going to have more aggravation. I'm trying to get rid of the aggravation.
Oh boy, I want to simplify my life. I want to divest myself. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So you need to know that. So this is where we start to change somebody's reality. We need to go in, instead of giving them a seminar and telling them, absolutely, this is the way it is. I'm telling you, and I do it all the time. I just did it a bunch of times in this podcast. I'm telling you, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Here's how you do it. I'm giving you these sentences 2 or 3 podcasts ago. Let's pretend we could.
Yeah.
What if, imagine for a moment, assuming we were able to, have you ever heard of or seen this before?
Mm-hmm.
Entertain me for a moment. You're using these between 3 and 4 to find out what's needed and wanted, because what they need and want might be unreal to the market. So you might have to adjust that reality. You might have to adjust that idea they have. Like, for example, I have a subject 2 that I bought that has a $2,400 a month mortgage on a $230,000 house.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do it because I'm worried about the neighborhood, and it's with a friend of mine, and they just threw the house at me. Yeah, no problem. They're moving to South Africa, and they just don't want the house. And I was just nervous about it, so I'm like, okay. So what I tried to do is, before I went away in Florida, I said in September, how about we put it on the market? Let's see what the market could do. Let me see what the market will bear. Let's see if we can find people that will pay $2,500 for the property, right? And the deal stalled. So I was at 4 and missed number 3, right? And because you're asking me this, and this is happening to me, this is how I put it all together in my head, because I've been thinking about this, right?
Sure.
So I went back to number 3, actually by talking to the father, because I know the father too.
Yeah.
And realized I missed it on number 3. What's needed and wanted. They want to go to South Africa without any looking back. So I called my realtor friend and I said, appraise it for me. Do a CMA, a comp, to find out they owe 233, but he thinks he can get 265. I don't know if he's right or wrong. But you know what? I sat in their house last night and I sat with the realtor and I told them to list it. But I told them right in front of the realtor, who is a friend of mine and actually one of my coaching clients, I said to them, if this doesn't work, we're going back to a subject to deal. But at least at that point, they know what the market's going to bear because they already brought it to the market. It's my way of now. I didn't really want to do it because I don't know how I can get $2,700 or $2,800 and make $400 a month on the property. I could get down payment assistance, and there's hardly any equity, so it's not a great deal for me, anyways.
Yeah.
So I didn't care, other than if it doesn't sell, then their reality is going to change.
Yeah.
This is no different than you signing an option agreement with somebody and saying, let's see what the market does. So that's one way that you can change or adjust somebody's think on what they should get. That picture they're looking at, that basic picture, what they think of themselves in this house.
You know what else is really important about doing that? We don't have to say to a seller, gee, I don't think that's going to work. Because the realtors never do that. They go, sure, I'll list it for $800,000. So you try whatever they're looking at doing with the option. If it doesn't work out, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't promise anything that couldn't happen. Everybody found out the reality that you have to adjust to.
That's right.
If you don't have to shut them off, can't do it, give it a shot. And then you can adjust as needed. Also, when you remind, just another point, when you reminded me of, when you pointed out, like, go back to 3, it makes me think to myself, even though the person is saying on step 3 that he will do this, make sure they really want to do that. Just talk to them, verify it. Like, is this really okay? You're going to do this? Make sure they're not just saying, 5 yeses or however, just make sure it's really what they want.
That's a good point, Peter. You're saying it backwards, though. So when you're on step 4, you need to make sure you include what they said on step 3.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do this, Mr. Seller, that means that you're going to get out by December 30th. If we do this, Mr. Seller, that means that you can walk away. If we do, and you're going to give them all the things they gave you on step 3 and step 4.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do this, that means that you can stay till June and let your grandchild graduate.
Right.
And if you do this, Mr. Seller, you don't have to clean the house. I'll do that for you. And if you do this, Mr. Seller, you can get divorced. And if you do this, there's so many ways you could do that. So your offer and number 4, give them what's needed or wanted, is predicated on what they ask for in number 3. So just make sure you reiterate that and use their words back to them, and it will happen.
Yep. And just making me more conscious of making sure that's what they really want to do. However, review it, go over it, make sure they're not just going, You're going,
So to your point, which I didn't say that. So that means we can close by January 30th. Is that what you want, Mr. Seller? That's what you want, right? Mm-hmm. And they say, yeah. And you don't have to clean the place. You could just take what you wanted and walk away. That's what you want, right, Mr. Seller? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or, well, no, that's not even that important to me.
Yeah.
Right? That's where you get your yeses and nos, is going back and forth between 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So 3 is finding out what's needed and wanted, and 4 is the actual offer based on what they told you.
Yeah.
And if 4 doesn't work, then go back to 3 and say, what would have to happen for me to sell your house today? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So technically, Peter, really technical.
Mm-hmm.
Step 1, finding a way to communicate to a potential motivated seller. And step 2, letting them know what you do, are pre-qualifying steps so that you can get into 3 and 4, because that'll be more of a personal conversation. So if you're on a team, an opener would do step 1 and step 2, a closer would do step 3 and step 4.
Awesome. True.
Right? So it's simple. The thing is that you move between step 3 and step 4 in your whole deal strategy until you figure something out.
Yeah. Well, I've heard you do it in houses. You I can do this. And the guy goes, and you go, well, wait a minute. What if we did this? And you go, wait, hang on. I got this other idea. And you string that until you find the one that sticks.
Here's the bomb I'm going to drop as we leave.
Yes.
Guess what?
What?
This not only works as acquisitions, it works for your selling houses too. It's exactly the same way when you sell your house. Find a motivated seller, tell them what you do, ask them what's needed and wanted, and then give them an offer.
Yeah.
Works exactly perfectly as you sell to.
Interesting.
So if you're getting houses on consignment, or if you're a realtor using our system because you'll need to have a license, this is how you do it. You find out from your buyers who's motivated, find out, you tell them what we can do. Well, what I do is I'm going to rent this house I'm selling this house with no bank qualifying. You need to have at least 5% down and the payments are blah. Can you do that? Yeah. Okay. Here's how it works. And you go right into number 4.
Perfect.
It's like simple, simple, simple. Nowadays, we use AI and the robot and Creative AI Reply to do steps 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Our job is to do 3 and 4. And sometimes people expect too much from 1 and 2 from the AI to be able to do 3 and 4 because they don't know what's needed and wanted. I'll give you one that this is something I just recently changed on my script a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
When did you want your written offer by?
Yeah.
You would think that you wouldn't have to ask that question for sale by owner. And they'll be like, well, we want to have Christmas in the house, so it won't be until until January.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. Okay. So I don't know if he's still here. Rocco says, happy Thanksgiving to Pete and I, because the people that are listening after the fact, today is Thanksgiving. We're doing a podcast on Thanksgiving morning. So Thank you, Rocco, for Thanksgiving wishes. I hope you have a great day with your family and doing whatever you're doing. And please, if you're listening to us on Thanksgiving, don't drink and drive. That's my message. And the other thing is, don't talk politics. I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
So something that I'm going to add, it's going to take another minute or two here because we're an hour and 16 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I have decided to turn a leaf about a month ago.
Really?
This formula that I'm giving you right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, works for who you talk to too. So if I'm a Democrat and you're a Democrat, and I say, this is what I am as a Democrat, then I find out what's needed and wanted from you. What do you want to talk about? And then I give my ideas. If I'm a Democrat and you're a Republican, stop the music. Or vice versa. If I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat, we're not going to. Here's the deal. It's proof after the election that half the country is Democratic and half the country is Republican. And we're actually in a civil war and we don't even know it. Actually, we're in a revolutionary war and we don't even know it. Right? And what's going to happen is you're going to have differences. So you're not going to change the other person's mind. So don't have that conversation.
Don't argue.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah. I think the only thing you can do, I thought of this, I don't want to have political conversations. I would be willing to have a conversation with somebody if you want to talk about what would you like in your life? Like, I wish I made more money or something, something personal in their lives. And maybe we could talk about that. And I say maybe because there's no guarantee, but I think that's a little safer than getting into the big picture. Forget that. I think we should talk about our personal lives and just make that work better. And then maybe we'd be okay.
Why do I say all this morning on Thanksgiving morning on a podcast?
Because you're going to brunch and you're going to Thanksgiving.
No, I say this because if you practice this on days like today with people you don't normally talk to that are not in your circle, like your everyday circle, it'll help you do discovery on another person to find out where they're at so you know what to talk about. And that's what deal structuring is all about.
Yeah.
Okay. With that said, we're way over, 19 minutes over. We're over now. Don't forget, if you leave us a 5-star review, take a picture of it, send it to flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com, and I will send you our whatever you want, the calculator for free. I will send you the script for free, and I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me, and I will send you how to make your first $5,000, which is a 14-step course for free if you so desire. If you don't want any of that stuff, I understand, and have a good day. Okay? With that said, we're over and out. Make sure you like us. Make sure you leave us all kinds of reviews and send me an email if you so desire. Until podcast number 436, have a good week.